The minister has been talking about the result of the recent WASSCE and how that is a reflection of how the students were not able to apply what they've been taught, and that this actually was probably the truest reflection of whatever they've learned in school. Let's listen to the Minister of Education. When we come back, we speak to Peter Ante.
I talk about issue now is about performance at the West Africa certificate exams. It's only in Ghana that when students pass, the students are praised. When they fail, blame a minister or blame a government. That's a paradox and an irony for me. Now, what worked out was that we strengthened supervision and monitoring, and invigilation was strengthened. But I want to believe, upon my examination of the examiner's report, that the results reflected real outcomes of what to be expected. I share this with you. There's a student whose birth date is March, secondary school completed, and the student can't spell March on his birthday, yet he passed. He got excellent aggregate. How did that happen?
It wasn't examination tension.
I say he cannot spell March.
Wow.
March. If it was necessary, maybe then you say he can't spell necessary, as I probably struggle or somebody struggles spelling it. Just March. He can't spell March yet. He was born in the month of March. You've seen instances where we are told that a student beat up a teacher for refusing to give them opportunity for exam malpractices. What does that reflect? We need to work to restore integrity in
How intentional are you about restoring that kind of integrity?
If you recall, even before WASSCE, myself and my team were in the Bono region. I spent the night between Babato, Kintampo, through Techima. It was to send a certain signal because some areas in that particular corridor were notorious for exam malpractices. And we needed to tell them that we'll come after you. And probably that worked. But what is important, after evaluating the examiner's report, many of the learners struggle with application. So maybe they prepared for just memory, memorization of concepts. But this time around, the questions focus on application of what they learned. I think that let us all commit to improving the provision of quality secondary education.
So that is the Education Minister there, Haruna Iddrisu, speaking with, she's still my colleague, Mefa Apel there. Let me bring in Dr. Peter Ante. He's Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies and lecturer at the University of Cape Coast. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining us. Now, the Minister clearly says, based on the investigations they've done into this, it sort of suggests that the student had issues with applying or dealing with the application-based questions. You've also dealt with this. You've looked into it. I mean, what do you make of what the minister is saying? Is he right? And if he is, what needs to be done to change?
Thank you very much, Okojo, and good morning to your viewers. If you remember, I was one of those who said that we should hasten slowly in drawing conclusions to why the students didn't perform well.
Yeah.
And I said that we should pay attention to the chief examiner's report and other works that will come out after some analysis of the questions have been carried out. And I'm glad that the chief examiner's report is informing the minister's decision. Yes, I have spoken to most commerce teachers, and one of the things that comes or cut across their response to the challenges that the students face with the commerce was the fact that the questions were in word form instead of sometimes the normal numeric form that you would get. And when questions are placed in that way, what it means is that the student would have to first read and understand and then apply the very basic principles, whether it's indices, whether it's trigonometry, or whatever it is that they have learned, to the the demands of the question before they will be able to answer. So it is true, because it's come from the chief examiner, who has analyzed all the responses that are coming from the various assistant examiners and examiners. It is true that application became a big issue in the 2025 examination that the students sat for, and a lot of factors can lead to that. But the minister is right, speaking to the chief examiner's report, which WAEC has also indicated, that a lot of students were not able to apply what they have learned to enable them respond to the questions that were asked during the exam.
Is it an issue of teaching, as in how the kids were taught, or is it an issue of strict supervision and how that impacts examinations?
Well, if the problem is application, then 2 or 3 factors comes to mind based on research in terms of how you analyze some of these things. The first is the teacher pedagogy. There are certain pedagogical, or let me use the normal word so that everybody will understand, teaching methods. There are certain teaching techniques that teachers need to use to be able to teach application questions. So when you want to deal with application, prepare students for application questions, you don't apply just any method. You use the project-based method, use the problem-solving method, you use the experiential learning method, you use the case study method, and other methods that gives the student the opportunity to explore various possible responses to the particular question that is placed in front of him or her. So teaching methods plays a critical role in preparing students to answer application questions, because with application questions, the student will have to dwell on his understanding of the situation vis-a-vis his understanding of the theory that has been taught, so that he can now apply the theory to the problem and then find an answer to. And that will not happen if the teacher is using a mere question and answer method, or the teacher is using a lecture method, or the teacher is using more teacher-centered methods in the instructional process. So yes, it depends on the teaching methods, and this means that clearly our intervention approaches are clear-cut. Which schools perform poorly in core mathematics, give the teachers more in-service training, professional development in some of these transformation pedagogies or creative pedagogies or innovative pedagogies that are available, that enables the students to apply what they are learning. Again, you also look at it from teacher assessment processes. What were the kind of assessment questions that these students were exposed to before the WASSCE? Were they recall, or they were, as we say, we have level 1 to level 4. Were they level 1 questions, or they were level 2 or 3 and 4, which demands higher order thinking? If they were prepared for level 1 questions, then it means that when they sit for the exams and the questions are level 3 and 4, they are going to find themselves wanting. So these are 2 issues that you can push on the teacher. Then you look at the student comprehension. Your ability to read and understand the question depends on you and not the teacher. So what is the student's comprehension level? What is the student's reading ability? And this boils down to the problem that the president talked about, foundational skills, foundational learning. How are we preparing our students in these 2 basic areas that cut across the global system, numeracy and literacy? So if students are not able to read, if the students read and they don't understand, then you give them application questions they will not be able to answer. That means that then they would have to rely on help during the examination period. So your point of strict examination, strict supervision comes in. So I can't read, I don't understand, I was not prepared for that. Then the next option for me would be, can I get help during the period so that I can still answer the question? So when you increase the level of invigilation and supervision during the exams, the student is left wanting. And that technically can lead to the performance that we experienced.
Okay. Doc, once you say the solution is clear-cut, I hope that the Education Ministry and the GES are able to implement the necessary solutions so we don't get this performance again. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Kweju.
So that's Dr. Peter Ante there, who is the Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies there.